what I'ma do. No, I should vote, but who I'ma choose? I don't know who telling the truth. Get in my bag and I Gucci too. Give me the strap, I think I might shoot.
Good to go. Welcome to the Pot, the Kettle, and the Boy Maroon. My name is God Strickland, and I have a special guest, my boy Onique, aka Oso.
Right,
That's the
right.
new name.
That's
My
the
boy's
new
a
name.
musician. Before I get started, bro, I want to say that part of it kind of surprised me, but part of it didn't. You know, now for those of you listening, Onique is one of the most creative people I've ever met. He does his photography. He's always been one of the best dressed and flyest dudes I've known. Don't be modest.
Appreciate that, bro.
You feel what I'm saying? And he dropped a new project, new song.
Right,
I don't know.
right. So I actually dropped a EP, and
EP.
I don't know was one of the tracks on it.
And the EP is called Loading.
Yeah, the EP is called Loading. EP is called Loading. It's out now on all platforms. Spotify. You can search me up o.so, and it'll pop up. Everything is there.
So, bro, what inspired you to start making music?
You know, I feel like when I really reflected on it, I realized that I've always been in tune to music, but more on the consumer end.
Okay.
Like I was always someone like I had to have music. Like I had to listen to music. And I think when I think about what I did for fun as a child, like 6, 7, 8, I used to like mess around with the pianos. I used to like, try to like there was even a time in high school where I tried to make beats and I never took it serious. And I think my entire life I've always been a writer, right? Writing was always, that was the foundation. And I think as time evolved, I'm like, why not try this music thing? Yeah, writing was always there. Like my aunt, she was, the reason why I write is because my aunt, she used to, like every summer when we were off from summer school, when we were off from like regular school, and we were off for summer vacation, she used to make us write every day. Like she was like a Caribbean, like real Jamaican. Like every day she'd be like, yo, I want you to write a paragraph about a clown. I'm like, where's the clown? She's like, make it up.
I'm weak.
For real, she'd be like, I want to tell me how red his nose is. Tell me how curly his hair is. Like she was like, be descriptive, like every day. So that's where that writing element came from. And I think now it's like, okay, I listen to hip hop and rap all day, and I write poems all day. I think it's time to
put it together.
Right.
It's so because if you watch your work, because from the outside looking in, the main thing you do is photography.
Right.
And your shit has always been clean.
Feel you, bro.
So the idea, it didn't, part of it that made it like, all right, it doesn't surprise me because you were the one. I don't know if you remember this, but this was like, I think it was my sophomore year in high school, and we were in the library, and Onique actually put me on to Kendrick Lamar.
I didn't remember that, bro.
Yeah, it was you put me on to Section 80, but you started with you was telling me about rigor mortis and the idea behind it, and you was just hearing you speak about somebody else's genius, you could just tell that you was just a real fan. Like at the time, I was in terms of our era, like I like Wale,
Right.
I like Hobson and stuff,
Right.
but I was still in the old school. I love AZ, I love Nas, I love Cool G Rap.
Okay.
So it was really hard for me to fall in love with someone who's new.
Right.
And listening to Section 80, it was just like, wow, this nigga is different.
That project was crazy.
You feel what I'm saying? So
One of my favorite projects from him.
I always credit you for that. Like,
wow.
yo, the
I didn't
person.
even know I was the one.
That's a fact, bro. But it's the track. I want you to speak on that I don't know track, because again, I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't, because it was conscious, but it was artistically relevant in terms of the sound sonically. So I wanted you to get in depth and speak on what inspired that track.
Right. So, to be honest, the inspiration came from, so most of the other songs, they were like poems that I turned into songs.
That's a fact.
That song was more like, I know I wanted to talk something about what was going on. And that song took me, it's not the world's greatest song, but it took me a long time to write that song, in my opinion. It took me I think almost a month lyrically to just get the lyrics out, because like you said, I was trying to be conscious of, like, I am talking about a sensitive topic, but I felt like a lot of people who do talk about that topic is usually over like a specific kind of beat, and that beat doesn't really, like, it's not easy to digest for like our generation or the generation that's even younger than us. So I was like, I was on YouTube, I was like, little baby beat, little whatever beat, and I'm like, yo, I'm just gonna find a way like to talk about. And I think that beat, I don't know if it's the flutes or whatever it was, I just heard it and I was like, this is the one. And I made that decision. I just kept like, write a bar here. I'm like, yo, what? I'm not really a freestyler. Like I said, I'm a writer. So I was really sitting down and like, all right, I'm going to switch it up here. We need to do this and that to the beat. So that's what that process was like. And I think what's going on socially in the world is just, I think in the summer, like during quarantine, apologies, during quarantine, like I was crying a little bit because I felt like there was so much going on with COVID and George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, and I'm just like, where's the justice? And I think that's where the passion came from for me to like, yo, I think I need to like put this out into like music form. So yeah, that's where that came from.
No, bro. And it was quarantine's been so weird, bro.
Weird,
Corona's
bro.
been weird, bro.
It put me in a very weird space. Like, bro, weird.
Like me for you guys will see the pod. Me and Coco did a pod 2 days ago,
Right.
and we
Saw
were
him
just,
post some stuff.
bro. It was magic.
It was deep.
We're
I can
gonna get
imagine.
into it. We're gonna make some special today too.
Coco's a special person.
You feel what
I
I'm
know
saying?
that.
That's my brother. But we were talking about how being in one place, being still, and everything going around you, like that was one of my things that, like, in terms of pet peeve that I hate, and I think it tied into the depression I kind of fell in during quarantine. And I didn't realize it. You had so much going on. I'm trying to do the podcast thing. I'm trying to do the writing thing. I'm trying to get back into journalism, blogging, and music. And I got a little one on the way, and with
really?
everybody in the house, and then dealing with the, moms getting fucked at work, money wise,
Right.
and you're wearing everybody's trauma. You're wearing all the trauma that's happened in the world, and you never having that point of solace. You feel what I'm saying? And especially in terms of what was going on with George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, the riots, it was a lot.
It was a lot.
It was a lot. And to know that you couldn't do anything,
Right.
or trying to find out what you could do, and just like, damn, I just feel still.
Right.
You know what I mean? I want you to talk. What was your biggest beef with everything that was going on?
With quarantine or COVID or like.
2-part question, both.
Okay, so for the COVID part, for me, I was this dark thought. I wasn't happy, but I was happy that I got a chance. Like, I love my home. I grew up an only child. Like, I'm used to, like, my home is my safe space. Like, a lot of people, unfortunately, like, during quarantine, they were stuck home in a unwanted, undesirable space. For me, it was the opposite. Like, I just live with my mom. You feel me? Very quiet home. So at first, it was great. Like, it was great to just work from home. I'm a teacher, so working from home was fine.
Shout out to the teachers. Shout out to the teachers.
Yeah, I know, I'm struggling right now. But so at first it was great to just be home and, be in a safe place. But then, like you said, depression started seeping in. And for me, what happened was my abuse of drugs got really bad. Like, I was just home and, indulging too much. And I think the indulging mixed in with the depression that was coming along, like, it seeped into the relationship with my girlfriend and my mom. And I think that was my biggest gripe, that my depression had gotten so bad and I couldn't go anywhere to escape, like you said, like, we're just here. Especially doing, like, when we had like curfew. I was like,
that shit was different.
like, well, I can't even drive my car anywhere.
A grown ass man
right.
talking about motherfucking curfew.
So during those moments where I really, like, okay, I love my home, but, like, now I want to escape because of the depression, and I had nowhere to go or no real, like, outlet to let it out. And that's when I also started writing and doing music more again. I started, like, I was in my little car, bro, had my little $30 headphones in, put the beat on, and I was just really, like, doing it in my car. So the good and the bad came from there in terms of COVID and quarantine. But then during that time, we had a lot of, like, racial injustices that we still don't even know what's really going on with some of these things. Like, what's the answer for these problems? So I think during that time, I was very reflective and thinking about, like, our social issues. And I'm like, yo, what's really the answer here? Like, am I going to live to see the life that I'm fighting for? Are my kids going to live to see that life? Like, those things were, like, playing in my head a lot. And I mean, I think I'm in a better space now, but quarantine was tough at first. Like,
nah, bro. And you said something. You peaked on something that's been a topic on the show a lot, where we talks about self-abuse. You said, I'm paraphrasing here. You know what I mean? Being home, being locked in, even though, you know what I mean, what you do at home, the people you have, you love being around them or whatever. It forced you to find a means for an escape.
Right.
So when you talk about abuse, right, especially self-abuse, I realize that there's kind of like there's these two pathways for it. There's the abuse to feel, and there's the abuse to get out and escape. You know, and it's I don't, and I'm still trying to figure it. I'm still trying to figure it out.
That's tough.
Because whenever you try to look for solutions, right? Every solution that, like they say, what you put into your body is helpful. Working out is helpful. But in terms of what comes out of everything, in terms of getting away, that's not always the answer. Sometimes you have to find the answer for yourself. And for you, it could be creatively.
Right.
For me, it was just sitting down, being still, and realizing like, yo, what the fuck makes me happy? Like, what genuinely makes me, and I don't mean that in the sense of something like real broad and generic, like, yo, taking a walk or going to the gym or whatever. Like I told Chris, like, for me it was anime. I really love anime. Anime allows me to escape the world, the reality of my world, because these aren't real characters. All I'm doing is sticking to a plot, sticking to a script, and I'm searching and I'm finding solace creatively with what they're doing on the screen.
Right.
And because it's fake people, I'm not necessarily comparing them to what's going on. So I want you to speak on how hard it is to find that solace, to find that sense of peace where you're indulging to escape.
Right.
But what you're indulging in is part of the problem.
It's part of the problem. That's what you said so many things. But to be honest with you, I think I'm still figuring it out. For me, like I literally had a conversation with my girlfriend yesterday about this. There's still a lot of work to be done up here, and I feel like I made a decision to find that peace and that solace, whatever it is, whatever, like, what makes like, what is Oso's happiness? Like, what's my happiness outside of, like, people, or like for me, like, it was drugs. Like, I used to smoke too much, and that would, like, okay, I smoke, I'm good. But it's like, let me dig into that a little bit. So
Digging. We got time.
People like don't believe that, like, you could overdose on marijuana. But I think, and there's this show that I would love for you to also watch. I don't know if you ever watched it. It's called The Midnight Gospel.
No,
It's actually a cartoon.
I'm gonna write that down. The Midnight
It's on
Gospel.
Netflix. It's on Netflix. It's actually a podcast cartoon. It's really up your alley. But it's so basically, every episode is like this guy, like the world that he lives in, the cartoon world he lives in. It's like the future or whatever, and they basically have like a world simulator, right? They're like old, like they have these simulators. So what he did was he bought this old simulator, and the simulator is like, it's so immersive that like you can like teleport into this fake world, but it feels fully real, and the characters are real. Like, it's all computer, but the characters are like, it's like Sims, but it's like, imagine if you could go into the Sims and interact with them type vibe. So all these different worlds with these different characters. And one of the episodes was about drug addiction. So like every episode is a different adventure, but it's really a podcast about the characters talking about, like us right now. So he was talking about like, and it hit me, and I'm like, yo, I've had this effect on me with marijuana where if you're someone that's already analytical outside of marijuana, like if you're someone that has a deep mind and you think a lot, you can get into a space of marijuana where you're too deep into your thoughts. And I feel like during quarantine, that was happening with me. And it was happening while I'm talking on my phone with my girlfriend. So I'm going through these spaces where I'm being over analytical, over analyzing things. Paranoia was kicking in. Like, it passed just being high now. It was just like I'm constantly paranoid. And I didn't realize what was going on until I saw that episode and I thought about it. I'm like, wait, was I like fake overdosing on marijuana and I didn't know? And I think that's what happened. Like, I had these spells, these moments where everything tripped me. And I felt like I was just using marijuana to like, okay, if I smoke, I'm gonna be happy. But when I smoke too much, I pass happiness and now I'm at a point of paranoia. And that happened to me a lot. And I feel like I definitely slowed down on the weed. Definitely slowed down. And I'm doing things now, like I'm skating again. Like I'm just getting out, like getting fresh air, like, you know, riding a bike. Like today I rode a bike in the city, just cause.
Just cause.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, nobody there. Like, just doing what I did as a child. Like, if I was bored, I went outside, I walked, I jogged, I played ball. Like, quarantine put me in a space where those things weren't available, and it heightened the depression on top of the weed, on top of I couldn't go anywhere. So that's where that came from.
I never thought about it like that, because you hear the phrase overdose.
Right.
When I think about overdose, I think about what was the shit in the Bronx, the Netflix original they had with Jaden Smith, and
Oh, I don't remember the name. I know what you're talking about.
but there was a scene where the guy's overdosing on heroin. She has to go sneak him to the bathroom, put the ice on his nuts, and wake him back up. Like, that's what I think about when I
Right.
think about overdose.
Right.
I never thought about, like, because America, not America, I said marijuana, we look at it as like a safe drug.
Right.
Like, it doesn't kill anybody.
It doesn't kill anybody.
But the idea of overdosing on thoughts,
I'm telling you, bro.
that's different, bro.
I'm telling you, bro. I was so, like, deep into my head. And then when you have insecurities now, those get so much louder. Because now it's like I'm overanalyzing things. I got nowhere to go. I can't get a cut. Like, you know what I mean? Like, insecurities screaming really loud now. And when I watched that episode, I was like, I never thought about it like that. I'm like, when you think of overdose, like you say, you like pass away or you pass out. But, like, if you have a certain kind of mindset, that's why weed is so, like, funny to study, because it really depends on your mind. So for me, like, I already had an analytical mind. I was already someone that was very, like, stuck in my head. So doing weed too much put me in a space where the paranoia just wasn't healthy. Like, it wasn't healthy at all.
And I want you to speak on insecurities, because I don't think that's something that you don't necessarily hear pertaining to men a lot talking about themselves, especially
Right.
black men.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying? And I don't know if it's a thing of we have to be the big strong man. We don't talk about our feelings, but we got things we think about in terms of ourselves.
Yes, bro.
So I want you to be open and honest, and I want you to speak on those things. What is O's insecurities?
To be honest, I know me in this melanin culture,
Yeah.
and maybe you could speak on. I know I'm a little darker than you, but
Talk about it.
growing up, my skin was one of my biggest things. I used to get teased a lot from my skin, and it's funny because I was lighter when I was younger. You know what I mean? Before I like had acne and all that stuff. But growing up, from the minute I came to America, it was like that was the thing. Like, okay, he got big ears and he's dark skinned, and for me, like, it stuck. Like, the ears thing doesn't bother me. Like, people laugh on my ears all the time, and that's cool. But the skin thing, like, I've had girls like, yo, you're cute, but you're dark. Like, on some 8th grade.
That shit is wild.
Right. On some, you know, it's 7th grade. Right, it's 7th grade. But I'm like, thinking about, like, yo, like, somebody said that to me now. I'm like, bro, that's, what? That's crazy.
No, but that's the thing. You're cute for a dark skinned boy.
For a dark-skinned boy. I'm like, are we not all black here? Like, I'm so confused, bro. And I think for me, because like I said, I was always in my head, those thoughts stuck. So when I had my depressive moments, it was like, yo, you're ugly, you're not good enough. You know what I mean? Like, your skin is this. All these different things were like, I was insecure about it. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't like going out at night because flash on me at night is just not going to work. So it's like things like that used to like affect me and affect, like, to the point where I feel like I am a social person. I could get up here, I could talk. But if my insecurities are loud, always like shut down, you suppress. Like, so for me, my insecurities would affect me in a way where if I wasn't feeling myself aesthetically, I wouldn't be able to like just be myself in a social event. So I always felt like I was like a social butterfly with like battered wings. Like, I could like fly, but like sometimes this shit hurt. Like, it don't really, it's not easy to do it. And I think that comes from like things that I've been through with family and like certain trauma and certain abuse, and like how I mix that in with, okay, everyone at school is making fun of me because of my skin. So when you mix in with the abuse and then you going to school and people making fun of you for this, I'm like, oh, this is why. Like, as a kid, that's how I put it together. And it stuck with me for a while where like, yo, your life sucks because of this thing, or, you know, you're dark skinned, or, you know, like, you're not attractive, or like all these different things you're poor, all these things that I was like, insecure about, like, still affect me to this day. Like, when I'm out, like right now I had to give myself a pep talk. I went for a walk, I went skiing yesterday. For me to be social, it's like a prep. If I'm not prepping myself, then these insecurities feel louder. Like, I can't control them as much if I'm not prepared. Did I take a breath before I came in? Did I do my meditation? You know what I mean? Like, if I don't do those things, I feel like flapping my wings is harder as a social butterfly than I'm supposed to be.
That's wow. I've never thought about it like that, honestly, bro. It's weird, 'cause especially when we talk about attention. When we talk
Right.
about attention to the opposite sex or whatever we're attracted to,
Mm.
it can determine your insecurities a lot in most cases. Because especially when you're a young kid, like in middle school, I went to middle school with a bunch of Hispanic people,
Right.
and I was the most of the time I was the only black kid in class,
Mhm.
and you get that a lot. Yo,
Right.
you're cute for a black boy. You're like, I think you're cute, but you're black, or
Right.
you feel what I'm saying? Like,
It's ridiculous, bro. Ridiculous. But yeah, go ahead.
but for me, I started noticing as I got older, attention became higher. Like, I was starting to get more and more attention, and it came from my kind more often. And then it was like, oh, it's not even a matter of girls don't like me. It's just I'm not her preference, or I'm not what her family accepts or her
Right.
friends are used to. I'm not the
Right.
norm for them.
Right.
Because once we got into high school and you got friends in different high schools and you got different social groups, you start to realize like, oh, this isn't really a thing.
Right.
And the kids are terrible.
Terrible. Yo,
Kids are,
bro. Kids will find any way to get to you.
and I know because I'm one of them. I know because I'm one
No,
of them.
we had some roast sessions, bro. We had some roast sessions.
We've had some roast sections, bro. I remember, and we talked about this. I talked about one of my dearest friends, Don. Shout out to Don. How growing up, I'll say I was being honest, was coming from an honest place. I was saying how black parents didn't make black daughters and black sons appealing. Like, remember they would have the beads and their face would be greased up with Vaseline, and it was just like, what's going on? Why are you? Where just like somebody who didn't have all that going on was just more appealing.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying? And there's a lot of social engineering with that. There's a lot of parental engineering with that. And when you speak on insecurities, part of insecurities is knowing it and then channeling it and making it your own. Like, it was like, I know it's going to exist, but how can I control this?
Literally.
You feel what I'm saying? So you spoke about skin. You feel what I'm saying? Bro, you the trend right now. You the chocolate man.
And that's the funny part. When I saw that trend, I'm like, nah, what?
Since when?
Where was y'all at when I was crying my eyes out in sixth grade? Like, I mean, now it's just, it comes out like, it's not as bad as it was like when I first came here, when I came to America. Now, yeah, we do have a lot of melanin trend, but unfortunately, like that trauma that I've had from the time when
It's still in the back of your head.
it's still there. It's still there, and I see myself like feeling a certain way around certain people depending on how they look, and that's when I realized, okay, yeah, this is a problem. If someone else's presence that has nothing to do with me is affecting me because of this thing, then yeah, this is a problem, and I had moments where like I had to watch Oprah about her like melanin special and really like I'm dark and I'm proud, like really in the mirror, like giving myself affirmations, like you don't hear like people from the hood or black men saying this, but I really was in the mirror like telling myself like, yo, what you gonna do? You gonna bleach yourself or you gonna accept your skin? Like, you know what I mean? And it's like I just had to like accept that, yo, I love me, cause I think I grew up like trying to be a people pleaser, like trying to like I came from a foreign country. I'm just trying to fit in. Like I'm already poor. Y'all saying I'm this. I was just trying to fit in early. So I feel like a lot of times I'm thinking about if I'm accepted, and I don't think if I accept myself. And that's a new conversation that I've been having with myself. Like, that's why I started skating again. Like, if you see skaters, they don't care about anything.
Anything.
About anything.
Smells, rips in their pants,
Bro,
holes in their
they
shoes.
don't. And it's like I observed that the other day. I'm like, yo, skaters don't care. And I'm like, I need this, like, not that I should be like, like not caring, but I need to be more worried about how I feel and not about how like X, Y, and Z feels about me, so much. Especially as an artist coming up, like you could be Drake, people gonna hate you. And people gonna say X, Y, and Z about you. And I can't let my insecurities make them feel louder.
You
know
can't,
what I
bro.
mean?
Especially and I feel like most insecurities, especially when it comes to men, we don't admit it, but it's a derivative of what women think, of what women see, how women judge us, what women like. So we'll look at these things, and especially if a woman tells us, like, "Yo, like your beard looks nice," it's like, "Thank you."
Right.
Like, you have beautiful skin. Thank you.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying? And I think the way we fix that that trip, I think it's to teach the next generation self-love. You feel what I'm saying? And I don't think our parents knew how to do that. Like, I'm not saying that it's not saying that black parents don't know how to love.
Right.
Right. But there's a specific type of love that you give when you're grooming.
Literally.
You know what I mean? You have to teach somebody how to look in the mirror and be like, yo, you're a beautiful human being.
For real.
On the outside, on the inside, your mind, spiritually, emotionally, creatively, you have to teach somebody to take onus into that. Because now we're here 25, 26, and it's just like we got to figure this out on our own.
Right.
Imagine how powerful you'd have been if you would have had that from the beginning.
No, that's, bro, it's something I brought up to my mom. Like, I brought that up to her, like, that conversation of, like, as great as you were, there were, like, certain things that, like, hindsight, like, I know now from my youngin' when I get that chance, just, like you said, like, the importance of, like, just teaching them how to love themselves. And I think that comes from, like, you loving yourself first. Like, I can't teach anyone how to. And I think a lot of us, like my mom, she came here, immigrant, hustling and bustling, doing all of what she has to do to make sure, like, you know, like, that little O can go to school, be on the ball team. I think I didn't see, like, that. Like, I never saw my mom rest like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, my mom was always, like, a hard worker. And I feel like just even things like that, like learning to rest, learning to take a break, learning to, like, do things to show your self-love that we didn't really see as much as we're seeing it now. And, you know, thank God that this generation, they say we're the most sensitive generation. But I think that's a great thing, though.
I want you to speak on that. Great how?
I think it's a great thing because with sensitivity comes, like, the desire to change.
Okay.
I think the more sensitive you are to things, the more likely you are to, like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I think a lot of our parents, they put up with things because this is what we gotta do to survive. A lot of us now in this generation is like, I'm not putting up with this. And I think that same mentality should be, like, held, that same mentality should be held amongst, like, especially for us as Black people. Like, we need to, like, teach our young ones and the new generation coming up how to, like, love themselves, how to, like, I take pride in that. Like, I'm not the world's greatest teacher, but I tell my kids all the time, like, you know, you need to learn how to check in with yourself. Like, my 5th graders, like, every morning, like, we doing morning circle. Like, we're gonna talk about our emotions. We're gonna talk about our feelings because no one else gonna do this for you. No one else did it for me.
That's a fact.
You know what I mean? Like, I had the one teacher, but it's very important that young kids see older, you know, young, hip Black people doing the things that we're trying to get them to do. You know what I mean? Like, I really, like, Mr.O is feeling tired today. The color I'm feeling is blue. Like, all these little things is helping them, like, check in with themselves. Like, how are you feeling? And then what can we do to, like, you know, affect that emotion if it's an unwanted emotion?
I agree. I would agree with that. I think it's always hard to compare generations, right? Because it's just like, I feel like every generation prior to us, there was a different form of, I have to physically dig. I have to physically grind. You feel what I'm saying? And Mama O, you know what I mean? I feel like that's something that she showed you for a reason.
Right.
Like, you know what it looks like. I don't think a lot of kids know what it looks like to see a parent grind.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying? I watched my mother grind, bro. I didn't grow up with a father.
Me too.
I've watched my mother grind, bro.
Wow.
My mother's, I look at my mother as the strongest, most powerful woman I've ever seen in my life.
Same, bro.
You
That's
feel what I'm
tough.
saying?
That's beautiful.
No, but it's the truth, bro. There's something special in that. Watching somebody bust their ass, watching
For real.
somebody not rest.
Especially for you, when you know it's for you. Like, she's doing this because
For you.
For you.
She don't. But it's one of those things where it's like we say that like, yo, it's my kid, so I have to do it. She doesn't have to do
Right.
this. Like,
Right. And not to cut you off.
No, speak.
As I've gotten older, I realized what I had from my mom. A lot of people didn't get that. Like, there's a lot of parents that didn't make those sacrifices. And I think as I grow up, I realized that's a whole nother set of trauma that I don't even know about. Like, you know, my mom's not the perfect mom, but I've met people where I'm like, I couldn't handle that. There's no way. Like, she did what? Like, what? My mom would never. So it's like, I've learned to appreciate her for that. You know what I mean? Regardless of us saying, like, how it could be better, but I'm grateful.
She gave you, like, what I'm saying. You're critique. Like, no one is above critique.
Right.
We're gonna be critiqued as parents. We're gonna be critiqued as Black men.
Right.
We're gonna be critiqued as individuals. But you say that, and you understand the good.
Right.
You understand the good with it. I watched my mother work really fucking hard,
real.
bro. Like, no, like, no shit. Like, I've really watched my mother do that.
That's tough.
And you never see them break. I've never seen my mother break, bro.
Still going. To this day, still busting her butt, bro.
You feel what I'm saying? And it's just the things that we bicker about, where we butt heads, right? Is the things that fuel that. Like Ma Dukes have had her problem with men.
Right.
So there was a point in time where it's just like a lot of that was directed to me. We would talk to each other. She would talk to me as if I was a fucking boyfriend, and we would get in a whole out like arguments. Like we was talking like two people in the middle of the street that didn't know each other.
Right.
That he cut him off like fuck you.
How did that make you feel
It just
in those moments?
for me it's just you don't know me, because if you knew me you would know you didn't have to talk to me like this. That's my thing.
tough.
If you really took the chance to get to know your son, you would understand that, yo, like I'm the most calm, loving, like I want to have a good time with any and everybody I care about, and I want to do for you what you beyond what you're willing to do for me.
Right.
It's just approach. I have a problem with authority. I have a problem with people talking at me. I have a problem with disrespect. These are things I've always had a problem with. Is whether it be school, whether it be my peers, whether it be creative. Like it's always been a thing.
Wow.
So getting that at home, it created friction. And me being this new generation, like you said, that you had to look into the things that you were sensitive about. For me, I was sensitive about our communication. And you had to say, yo, how can I fix this?
Right.
Why is it? You had to. How can I fix this? And why is this happening? And I'm sitting one day. I'm sitting in a car and I'm jonesing with my mother. We played a game of 21 questions.
That's interesting. That's an interesting game to play with your mom.
It is.
I might have to try that.
She learned a lot about me, and I learned a lot.
interesting.
But is where we're talking, and she explained. You know, I asked her, how many men have you ever loved in your life? At this time, I had been like 19. I was going through my stuff. It wasn't just with her. It was school, it was relationships, it was work. It was a lot. And to come home and that be one of the biggest of them all is just like, yo, I already got a lot on my plate.
Right.
And I was on Adderall. It was a lot going on. You feel what I'm saying? And I'm talking, just picking a brain, and she was just telling me how, you know, I mean, with he's like, with your father, like I got a lot of love for your father, but you know, your father, he hurt me. Like he got her pregnant in high school, and she, I guess, found out after like he went into jail that the other girlfriend, the real girlfriend, was pregnant too.
Oh man.
So you can imagine it being 17, 18, and you feel what I'm saying?
Right. That's tough. That's a hard blow to take.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And then not having a father yourself, and my uncle being the guy who instilled being the father when we don't have no father, so I got to be a father. I got to be everybody's father. And you watch that, and I think that's him working hard and still being in a bright spirit and doing what he does. It allowed me to not have certain insecurities. Me watching her work hard, it allowed me to not be a slouch, be lazy.
Right.
You know what I mean? But teaching you they don't have time to teach you how to love yourself, because they got. It's not even a matter of I got too much on my plate. I got everybody's plate on my plate.
That's tough.
You feel what I'm saying?
It's too much.
It's too much for anybody.
It's too much.
So think about that, bro. Having you want to take care of everybody, and you have a little one. There's gonna be stuff that you leave off that little boy's plate, and self-love is one of those things. But it became one of those things. Is like, how do I fix our communication?
Right.
So that was the thing. I realized 21 questions was always like a deal breaker talking to girls.
Right.
Let me try talking to my mother. You feel what I'm saying?
That's right. That's going
try
to my notepad.
No. But honestly, I'm not saying ask your mother no walk shit.
No, I know what you mean. Like,
you feel
just
what I'm
the
saying?
concept.
Just the concept and pick her brain. It'll start a conversation you think you guys will never have. And she talks about like who the person she fell in love with. Now I'm not gonna put my mother's business out.
I feel you.
But when she spoke about that, it wasn't the person that I would have thought. Like it wasn't a response I was expecting to get. And from then on, it's just been open, and I'm one of those people where I cherish honesty, right? That's my biggest thing as a person. Some people can't handle honesty.
Right.
They say
Some
it, but
people cannot.
They can't. My thing is, you got to beef with me, tell me right there. Because I don't listen to tone. I listen to what was said and not the tone that it was said with. So just tell me. Let me know right there.
What
because
the issue is.
Exactly, because that's what you feel. What was said is what you feel. The tone is the emotion.
The emotion.
I don't care about the emotion.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying? So it was something I learned with Ma Dukes.
For me, it was the opposite.
I'm listening.
For me, it was like the tone. Like like you said, like I don't really feel like you need to yell at me. You know, like or maybe the way, or you know what it is with me too. Not even so much the yelling. I feel like a lot of times, something, I don't know if it's a black thing or a Caribbean thing,
Mm-hmm.
but when we're upset, the emotion takes over what the problem is. So the problem is here. Instead of me just bringing up that this is the problem, I'm gonna present it to you in a way to make you feel a certain way.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it was just the certain words, like certain like things that were extra on top of the problem wasn't necessary. I'm someone where I take words very seriously. Like if I have a problem with you, I'm gonna be like, yo, Rod, X, Y, and Z, A, B, and C. I'm not gonna put any extra, yo, you're always this person, or you're always, it's just gonna be like, yo, in this moment you make me feel so and so. I think this is a solution that we can do to like resolve our issues. It's not gonna be no, you're a terrible person, or because if that's the case, then I'm not gonna be trying to fix our relationship.
I'm gonna use that. He said, "It's not the problem itself; it's the presentation." I'm gonna use that.
No,
I
go
like
ahead,
that.
bro.
I
Take
like
that. And that's something I realized, like, like, think, like, I used to think that, like, communication was the key. But it's comprehension. And I know that's like the cliche, blah, blah, blah.
No, but cliches, they come from a honest place.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And I really feel like to comprehend someone, to piggyback on something you said, that really something I've been feeling. And I see as a teacher, as a former teacher, most parents don't know their kids. I want to say 90% of the parents I've met from being a teacher for 3 years, or for longer than that, they don't know their kids. They don't know how their modes of communication. They don't know what triggers them. Those things are so vital in parenthood. Like, as great as like my mom was, or as the people that raised me were, I feel like they didn't really know me. But because I wasn't a problem kid, it didn't really. But I feel like a lot of children are going through things, and parents aren't noticing changes in behavior because they don't know how their child really behaves. And I feel like that's a big part of the next generation. Like, we have to know our children. Like when I'm trying to change a child's behavior, I only change it through I only change it through the things I know about them. Like, if I know I have a young child that is throwing temper tantrums now, but I know he loves, like, I don't know, like, he loves a specific cartoon, the entire story is told through the cartoon. Like, it's not told through me as the parent. And I feel like on top of that too, as well, the being like a leader, or being how do you say the word?
Authentic?
No, authoritarian, like a
Authoritarian.
yeah, that word, right? So I feel like a lot of times, like, it's like, I tell you this, I tell you that, that's it. And with me, I'm more like, I'm gonna tell you what your options are. I'm gonna tell you what happens if you don't do this, or if you do this. That communication piece, as you keep saying, is so important for parenthood. If you're not able to communicate without the extraness, but to be fair, a lot of the extraness comes from being an immigrant parent, being a single mom, raising a child without anyone there to love you, struggling with 3-4 jobs. So I'm fair with that, but I know, like, that's a problem that I can't bring over into my my parenthood experience. I have to know my child, and I have to be in a space where I'm available to know my child. Like, I know myself enough, I'm confident enough where I can stoop on the level of a 5-year-old and it'll be okay. For a lot of, parents, especially Caribbean parents, talking to, like, giving a 5-year-old option that's just disrespect. But that means you don't know your kid. You have to talk to your kid like that. I feel like that's the only way it works, when a child feels like, okay, I have power, I have option, instead of I'm being told. Like, a lot of us didn't. I grew up not liking that, like, being told what to do all the time. I hate it. But if you had told me, oh, you want to do this or that, and you told me the consequences, now I could think. I'm a logical person. You raised me logically. I can see why this makes sense. Like, don't tell me that. Don't put your hand in the fire. You gotta tell me why. Like, I need the full. That's just how I am. Like, I need and a lot of times, as a child, people thought I was being rude because I was asking questions. I'm like, why should I do it this way? And a lot of times they couldn't give me an answer because this is just them being a leader or them being a tyrant. There's no real, like, what's the real reason why I got to scrub it left and right? Why can't I do it right and left? Like, that's how I think. And a lot of people think I'm being rude, but it's like, if you're going to tell me something, speak to me like I have sense. Like, tell me the reason why. Don't just tell me to do things like I'm a slave or a puppet.
And that's true. I think most parents would be surprised how intuitive their kids are, And like you said, I take no umbrage with the journey. My mother's from the Bahamas. Like, I understand being from the island, being from an impoverished community, being
Right.
not having a father figure, not having a mother,
I
whatever
agree.
yeah, do your thing, bro. Coming from your journey, I understand that, but when you have somebody whose profession is children, you got to learn how to accept the message. Like my thing, well, there's two things you said, right? I'm gonna touch on one. Questions. If a kid has questions, you got to choose whether you're going to be the parent that answers the question
Right.
to the best of your ability, or you that parent that shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up when we're on the train.
Right.
Like when we're on the train, I don't want to hear none of that. We going to sort of ask nothing. I've had that, you know.
Right.
I'm still going to ask questions because at the end of the day, I ask whooping, like after a while you get used to it.
Right.
Like you're going to have the answers eventually.
Right. You got some.
You feel what I'm saying? But that's, you have to decide what parent you're going to be.
Right.
And your journey can't be the reason why you're not acquiescing to nuance, because this is the new way of raising children.
For real.
Because you're a teacher, bro. Think about how often, and I hope parents are listening. Think about how often or throughout your day, how much time you spend with these kids. You as a teacher, what is it from 8
To call it 3. Call it 3.
8 to 3, right? From that time, parents is at work. You got to think that when they wake up before quarantine, right? Everybody's getting up, getting ready for work. Everybody's, I don't think kids even eat breakfast anymore, but everybody's getting dressed,
Right.
shower, brush their teeth. You're ready, get in the car. They drive you off. And now these teachers who, to me, are forced to approach school as preppers, we're going to get into that too. You know what I mean? They're here babysitting your kids for 9 hours, 8 hours out of your day. And then because you went through all of what you went through the day and they've been in school all day, you guys get tired and now it's like, yo, I just want to relax. I'm going to go lay down. I don't want to pick my kid's brain.
Right. Exhausted.
The 20% that he's with you, you guys are either sleep, getting ready to go to work, or it's leisure time that you just don't want to use because you
Right.
spent all your day just working. You're not using it. These
That's
kids,
true.
you're speaking, you're coming from an honest place. You're coming from a place of experience. Yo, I deal with your kids. You don't know your kid.
Don't.
I know your kid because I speak to your kid.
Literally. I have to.
I have to speak to your kid,
Right.
so I have to know your kid.
Right.
Otherwise, if he's throwing, he's gonna be a pain in my ass.
Right.
And I gotta figure out a way for him not to be a pain in my ass. You know what I mean? And I think that's something that parents they need to work on in terms of, all right, how do I pick my kid's brain?
Right.
Because ass whoopings, I'm sorry, bro.
Done. Bro, are you on that page too? I didn't want to offend nobody. I'm completely against, I don't think.
Speak on it. Speak on it.
I don't, bro. I mean, I'm a rapper, but I'm also a teacher, and I teach severe special needs. I'm talking, I have 21-year-olds that still wear diapers. I have most of my kids didn't get past 2nd grade, but they're 21 with beards and stuff. We've manipulated behavior, just never touching them. I can't hit my kids. I wouldn't have a job, but I got them to change, and I think that the reason is, I took it from a teacher. I'm trying to teach you a behavior. I'm not trying to force you or tell you what's right and wrong. So if you're taking it from a teaching aspect, like the way they teach us to teach, you have a goal, and you got to think of how am I gonna get this child or my child to change around this behavior. And I feel like a lot of times parents, they start thinking like this too late, when the behavior is manifested to a point where they don't have the patience to deal with it. I feel like I've had kids where I'm trying to get them to just not run out the classroom, and it might take me a year to do that. And that's just the one goal for the year. But I did it because I learned the child. I know what his triggers are, or his or her triggers are. I know what are the things that make you happy, and where your rewards are. So if I set up a system in place where you're working for these rewards, I can now set up a consequence system or a token system where if you're behaving a certain way, not that I'm going to reward you for every single thing, but you will be rewarded consecutively for consistent days and things like that. And if I set that up and I can remove it when you're misbehaving, and I can give you warnings and stuff like that, I feel like that works way better than me hitting you, because I feel like when you first of all, beating children comes from slavery. I don't care what nobody says.
That's a fact.
Argue me all you want, say we used to do it before, but this whipping and getting the whip, all of that came from slavery. So it's a slavery mindset, right? We saw that. If you acted a certain way, you try to run away, you're gonna get a whipping. Same thing translated into us as Black parents, right? So that's one thing why I'm against it. Number two, I don't think it works. I don't think beating your child works. I think there's a lot of children who got beat and they're okay, but I don't think it was necessary. My mom figured that out. My mom stopped beating me and she started doing things like removing privileges that hurt me more than a beating. Because we're gonna beat me forever. But if you took away my privileges, oh, you can't hang out with your friends, no basketball game. No, I wake up, the Xbox is gone. Like, things like that hurt me more than a beating. And that conditioned my behavior quicker than any type of whooping my mom could have given me at any age. So I feel like you got to start conditioning your child like that from like 4 or 5. Like, if you can communicate with your child, you don't have to beat them. That's just my honest theory. If you could talk,
I agree.
If you could talk back and forth, there's no reason why you should beat your child.
I think, and I partially agree with you. And what I mean by that, I feel like too much of one thing is bad across the board.
Okay.
I think if you just gave your kid timeouts, that's not disciplining your kid.
Of course not.
I feel like you just beat your kid, that's not disciplining your kid.
Right.
I think the consequence, and you said you was talking about a consequence and tokens, and I think the consequence should fit the crime. You feel what I'm saying? And it's not the point of me being fully against beating, because I come from a place where I know that comprehension of fear is necessary. I don't want to beat my kids all the time. That's not a thing. Like, I don't want to be that parent where it's just like, you know what I mean? I think everybody should get their ass whooped just once in their life just to know what it's like. But I need you to understand fear. I need you to understand fear from a person that loves you, a person that can explain it to you. Because I don't want you to learn that outside the house.
True.
Because when you fuck up outside and something happens, it's just like, yo, the world is teaching you consequence. I need to teach you consequence here first.
Right.
I've always said that as a parent. I believe that it's a combination of things. I believe in manual labor. Like, you remember the Jackson 5 movie. There was a point in time where the father, he was making them like carry cinder blocks. Like, by 12 o'clock, I need all them cinder blocks from here to be on this side of the backyard. I don't know. I've always fucked with that.
I'm still not on that side either.
I'm about to say
I'm not on that side either.
You don't have no. But it's one of those things. But again, it depends on what was the crime.
Right.
So it was just like stealing. If he's a boy and he's hitting women,
right.
Certain words, certain types of disrespect. Where it's just like, I need you to understand. I need some part of this consequence to be mentally challenging, physically challenging, emotionally challenging, and then explain to you why I picked this for this.
Right.
Why you're doing this.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying? So I think there's other alternatives. I think that you could get to a point where, I don't have to beat my kid because I know my kid.
Right.
Like, and this is what I really agree with. If you know your kid at 4 and 5,
right,
you never have to put your hands on your kid.
And I think that's where that part comes in. I feel like if you know your child, none of the other, like you said, okay, if my child is hitting women, that's a crime, right? That's like something. Does the crime meet the punishment or whatever? Why would my child be doing that? You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's like, when I say that to parents, they're like, well, if it's his first account, I'm not beating him. But if I've taught you, sat down, explained, we went through this, and you're still going against me, then that's a different story. But I feel like that does usually happen for a lot of us. 98.9% of the beatings I got, I didn't deserve it. And that's not me. I'm literally, bro, it's like, I didn't do my homework. I got to be in. Like, that's a conversation. Why am I not?
What was the number you said? 98.9?
98.9. I think one time I was hopping.
I'll go 95. I'll go 95? A clean 95. I think 5% I deserved. I was wild as
I was a very calm child, bro. Like, very quiet. Very quiet. Like, I didn't cry a lot.
So how your aunt had you in the crib writing all the time, that was a thing in my household with my grandmother, where I was always reading from the time I was 2, always writing, always.
As a form of punishment?
As a form of punishment, as a form of discipline. It was just something you had to do. It wasn't necessarily something you did wrong, but my grandmother would be on some shit where I'd be like, Grandma, I'm hungry. All right, go read Harry Potter. Now we both love Harry Potter. Like, I love it because
you guys
of it.
Bonded through that.
That's a fact. You feel what I'm saying? But that became a thing. And oh man, I lost my train of thought. We were talking about.
No, it happened to me early too. I'm like, buffer.
Backtrack. We were talking about.
We're talking about, like, if you know your child, you don't necessarily have to like beat them.
All right. So, in terms of writing, and okay, we're talking about how we were as younger kids. For me, school always came easy to me, right? So I needed to be engaged all the time.
Okay.
If you kept me engaged all the time, I wasn't a problem. But as a teacher, you have to get the class engaged. So I'm the type of person which is like, yo, I've done all this writing, I've done all these book logs. I've done book logs when I didn't have to. Like summertime is book logs. You
So
gotta,
you were really you was really a bookworm.
yeah, bro. They had me doing that shit,
Wow.
bro. That was like a real
That
thing.
stopped for me at like 8th grade. I'm like, nah.
I fell in love with books. You
That's
know what I'm
beautiful,
saying? But it became one of those things you had to keep me engaged. And the moment you couldn't, now it's like, here comes class clown. Now if I remember there was something we had on the board, and Miss Guzzo, shout out to Miss Guzzo, it's my second grade teacher. And
Took it back.
she's talking to one of the ESO girls, you know what I mean, who I eventually became cool with like in middle school. And she's trying to get her to engage in class. And she's stuttering, and I'm hot because I'm raising my hand. This is like the 5th time I've raised my hand. She ain't called me. And she started, I go, it's on the board. Like I was that kid. Like if you got to get it out. If you ain't getting it out, you feel what I'm saying? And that would be my conflict in school. And eventually, you know, teachers class, because I'm trying to get this class to be at a certain level by the end of the year, because this is what we have to do. You feel what I'm saying? And you're kind of being disruptive.
Right.
And because of the way I was, you couldn't push me up a grade, because it's like, all right, I was having problems just engaging with kids and keeping it calm type shit. So it became a thing where I had a assistant principal, Miss Woda. She changed my life forever, because she was the first person I ever had that really sat down in a calm manner and just picked my brain. Like just sat down, like I be in it, whether it be detention or whatever, we just sat down. And so how was your day, Rodney? I know what happened in class. How was your day? And then
That's
we would
important.
no, but it's the truth. I never really had anybody who cared. So it got to the point where we got so much cool. I'm eating dinner at my assistant principal's house. I'm meeting her daughter, who eventually became my teacher. Like,
wow.
It was just having that person who just really gave a damn. And it's like, no, I'm gonna allow myself to share dialogue with you.
Right.
I'm gonna talk to you as a peer.
Bro, that's.
It was. I never experienced that, bro.
Most children don't experience that from an adult. Most children don't.
I think that's imperative, bro. I think that's very imperative to child development. Speaking to your kid as a human being on even keel. I respect you because you're mom.
Right.
Like that's a given. But don't talk at me.
Right. That's mad important, yo. And my mom did it when it came to like everything but like mental health. Like my mom, any question my mom, like anything I ask about sex, anything like that, my mom is giving me the real answer. Like, you know what I mean? So that aspect, I got it. Like I used to get both because I was raised by so many different hands. So my mom had a lot of that. My mom was someone where like she would talk when she wasn't afraid to have some adult conversation with me. Like, like I was having sex talks. I'm not dragging it since 4.
I feel like that. I feel like you should have those talks.
And it was generated by me. Like it's not like my mom said, "Okay, I'm gonna teach you." It was like I asked her a question and she was giving me the real, like, you know, like she wasn't like giving me code names for her. She was telling me like, "This is what this is for. This is what this is does. These are the." I'm like, at 4, I'm asking you questions, and I feel like whatever age your child does it, like you said, you gotta talk to them like they're a peer. Talk like obviously still have that, like you said, the fear and the discipline. But certain conversations, I got to be able to talk to you on your level so you understand what's really going on.
That's a fact. Think about that, bro. Imagine your kid. If my kid comes and asks me what sex is for, the first thing I think the first thing parents say is like, what is he watching?
Right.
My thing is, all right, where is he learning this from? Because it could be anybody. It could be anything.
Right.
He be learning from school, bro. I've grown up with some very nasty kids. In middle school, I told you, they were pregnant. Like
middle school,
12,
2nd, 3rd grade, I've seen some things in the auditorium. I'm like, yo, Ma, what's going on here? What is this?
Honestly, so you have to be that person. You gotta be that teacher, because honestly, bro, and I get a deep heart, like a soft spot for teachers. Eventually, like I want to be an English teacher.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? But you guys, they're forced to be everything but an actual teacher. Like no, and I don't think people understand that. When I say teacher, I mean somebody's gonna give you information, and the purpose of the information is for you to build perspective of your own.
Okay.
I don't think school is for that. I think school is for, all right, this is the information. These are, especially in America, this is the information. This is the research. These are the dates. I want you to take this. I want you to memorize it, because we have a test at the end of the week. Yeah, I understand. You
Right.
talk. I need you to memorize this.
Right. They teach for test.
Yeah,
They teach for test and not teach to learn.
but I'm saying that, and so many kids they don't understand. They don't understand how to study or just take in information because of the way it's being handed to them.
Or be critical because they're told, okay, I need to know that the answer is A or that this is the answer instead of
Why?
why, or like let's apply critical thinking to this. How would you have solved this situation? Like how many times have you been in a history class and they have asked you what would you have done? Never.
Never.
And that's, to me, that's way more interesting than just the facts. Like the facts are, yes, important, but just imagine if they said, how would you have saved Rome? Like, let's do a project. How would you have kept Rome? Like, just things like that. Like, whatever the case might have been, like, there isn't a lot of critical thinking being applied into, like, teaching.
But you guys are put into a bond because you have a set curriculum that you have to get through by the end of the year.
Right.
I think that's crazy, bro.
It's crazy.
And it's fucked up because it's like, damn. In my head, it's like, damn, school should be longer. But then it's like, yo, we're trapping you guys into being full year preppers just because we want to teach our kids to be taught something.
Right.
I think that's crazy. I personally, bro, I thought what should have happened in terms of this homeschool thing, I thought whatever teacher that has a degree, yo, you put, I got $50 per kid or $125 per kid. I'm opening my own class for this particular subject, and just private, not even schooling, private classing.
You can do that right now. Google Classroom. I see teachers do it. I've seen like teachers who aren't like teachers start their Google Classroom and say like, I'm going to charge a certain amount to teach you just alternative to school. That's something that you should really think about, bro.
But I'm thinking, but for me, bro, I would want to do it with somebody who can really take the information and do something. Like I couldn't teach elementary. I think it would have to be somewhere along where it's just like, all right, I could do maybe 7th grade, 6th grade. I could do it with my sister. My sister's in 8th grade.
Right.
I could do those grades.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's just the job I have now came into fruition. It was like, this is safer.
Right.
And that's one of those things where I want to jot down. I want to be able to say that I was an English teacher.
Yeah.
That's not the end goal, but that's one of the things I want
That's
to
one
jot
of the
down.
things, yep.
You feel what I'm saying?
That's beautiful.
Honestly, bro.
That is beautiful.
But I feel so bad for you guys, especially with all that happened during quarantine and Corona, where we're talking about defund the police, and it's like, we're not saying to abolish the police. I don't even mean to make it to bring it around and make it a political thing.
Bro, speak your mind.
But it's just like, yo, you have all this money that goes into state police and that goes into these pensions. You have all this money. You know how much bro. I'm a journalist. I do my articles. So between October 30th, 2019 to September 30th, 2020, I think the military has been funded over $934 billion.
Wait. Say the dates again.
A year. So October 30th, 2019 to September 30th, 2020. So almost a year.
Right.
They've been funded $934 billion.
Stop it. Where's the money coming from?
But not even that's not even my beef. My beef is the fact that the Department of Education is only funded 79.
Oh yeah, that's not it, bro.
Like I don't
The funding
understand
we
that.
get is trash.
I don't get that. But you guys are building, and this is where, as a future father, I'm coming through this place where it's just like, my biggest fear is doing my very best, but providing the bare minimum. That's always been that's my biggest tension with myself. That makes me anxious with the future of being a father, right? And I feel like we're doing that with teaching. You don't realize that this person could start a war.
Right.
This person could be the next tech mind of the 22nd century.
Right.
You don't know who this little nigga could be.
Right. And it's really based on what you doing when he's growing up.
But I'm saying, bro, so as you would think that our education would be the most highly funded thing that we're doing, we'd be building all these minds,
right,
and then sending them out to fix what's going on in Africa, fix what's going on in these certain impoverished places.
Yo, you brought up such a great point. The funding is not placed on what it should be because that's not what they feel like is important.
That's just crazy.
If you look at some of our greatest, and I don't have the stats on this, but our top, like, not entrepreneurs, but our top like tech people that are like changing the world are from where?
in jail or some. Like I don't even get from here, bro.
Right, exactly. So it's like, what I see a lot happening is like a lot of American corporations or companies are hiring outside of America, and that's cool. I'm for that, but it's like, I think it'll be better for building up from in-house. Like, for like starting like loads. It's kind of like soccer. Like, do you watch soccer?
No, sir.
Okay, so in soccer, like the way it works in soccer or football for anyone that's outside of America is they take that stuff so serious. They start sending you to soccer school from like 7 to prep you to be a pro. So like you could go pro from like 13, 14 because you've been prepped from like 7. That's why there's so many soccer stars and there's so many coming up so often, because they're putting emphasis on youth. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's what we should be doing as a whole, as Black people, as Americans, as the government, is the emphasis should be the youth. Because all the problems, as I said earlier, all the problems that we have, well, I don't think we're going to live to see them all get resolved. I think it's mostly going to be our children's children. So we got to like put that prep work into them, put that funding into schooling, better curriculums. And I think because we live in we're not Democrats, we live in a democracy, certain states have better curriculums than New York. Like my cousins all live in DMV. Their school curriculum is way better. Like way better than New York's curriculum. So there's also that era of like, is it going to be governed by all of us? Is it going to be governed by state? But there does need to be a complete reform on our education system.
But and I think one of the biggest problems, and you kind of you didn't state it, but you brought it up in your point, where just like it's tier groups, it's hierarchy, it's the fact that we have to do it as Black people, brown people, we have to do it as human beings,
right.
bro. Like I don't understand that. If you like, you look at Flint, right?
Oh my God.
What's still happening in Flint is it's premeditated genocide, bro.
It's ridiculous, and it's not getting any like. Are we still talking about this?
But that's my thing, bro. If you want America, if you really wanted America to be great, you would make sure that even the weakest link would be the strongest.
So your point is it really the point to make America great, or is it to make you or I, the person saying that statement?
And that's the problem. And that's the biggest beef I have with capitalism. That's the biggest beef I have with partisan. That's the biggest beef. And that's why when we talk about, when you get into the politics and them telling you to vote, and it's just like, yo, at the end of the day, these are the problems that we have. How are these problems going to get fixed? You feel what I'm saying? When I'm to be specific, in these impoverished communities that are traumatized by property taxes and redlining, and how do you fix that? Who's going to fix that? Because that's a thing that can be fixed and should be fixed.
Right.
Like
that was on like the word fix, right? That's something that's been on my mind a lot during quarantine.
Speak on it.
Do you think that there's a solution to what's going on? Like all the problems that we have. Do you think they're like, I'm not saying nothing can be fixed, but do you really feel like within the next couple of whatever lifetime, do you believe so?
See, the problem is, and I don't even want to get into too much of theories, but it's gonna happen. I think that slavery came with man, tribalism came with man, consumerism came with man, capitalism, isms in general came with man. It's a part of human history. So because of that, it's always going to be a part of human history. People act like it. We were meant to be in groups, build and destroy, and then build again. Whether it be build to make better or build to spread, that's what we do as human beings. So in terms of that, I don't think that's going to change overnight. Now, in terms of the problem that I see for those communities that were like the communities I grew up in, you know what I mean, the communities that you said that you've come from, that moms have come from, I think you understand in-house tribalism. I think and I don't mean to separate it, but as a Black community, you gotta build in-house. You ever go to Valley Stream, certain parts of Valley Stream, or Woodmere, right, bro? There's so many Jewish neighborhoods, and this is shout out to the Jewish community. What you guys do in terms of tribalism is like nothing I've ever seen before. Everybody funds everybody's colleges. Everybody, if I have a job for you, if I have a job and as a spot open, you're the first person to get it. It's in-house all the time. And I feel like too many times with us, we're stuck being dolly and naked. Mm-hmm. Like, yo, we got to do it ourselves. I don't want no help.
Right.
What this nigga do?
Or the competitive nature. But I feel you on that, but I know what the answer to it is. And it's like,
speak on it.
I hate the fact that like all our problems stem from like almost the same source. If you really dig, who set us up to be like this? Like, who put us in an environment where like competition was breeding like this? Who stacked us on 100 houses and gave us no money and just said fight to survive? Who made it harder for us to like survive and come out of our situations? I feel like a lot of, I'm not saying that that's the answer, or like, yo, if someone is wilding out, oh, it's because of the white man or whatever. But I do feel like a lot of systems that came from slavery, that came from racism, are still affecting people in that way. They're putting them in a cycle where like, okay, a lot of us are breaking the cycle. Like, okay, we know like this is not the route. But a lot of us are still stuck in that cycle. A lot of us are still like, I'm pretty sure you've read The Cave by Plato.
No, I haven't.
Bro.
The Cave by Plato.
I keep putting you on.
No, put me in, bro. I love it. I love information.
Bro, it's just like, right now I feel like art in life, there are people where you expose them to information, the truth, right, about what's going on, how to be better, how to get out the hood, how to do this and that, and they're still like, no, right? They're still like not gonna do it, or they don't believe, they think that this is the best. The cave is this story. It's kind of like a really long analogy that Plato / Socrates wrote. Basically, it's like, all right, imagine a cave, right? So it's like the way it works is they're like slaves in the cave. There are slaves in the cave, right? And they're shackled back like leg to leg. They were born into this. They think this is literally life. They don't know any other thing. They think this environment is life, to the point where there's a man up top with a puppet, with a statue, casting a light on it that's creating shadow. So you have like a dog statue. It'll create a dog shadow. The people in the cave will think that's a dog, the shadow. They'll think that the shadow is the real dog. They don't know what the real thing is. And there's like so many levels to like being woke and awareness. The guy with the statue thinks the dog is the real, thinks the statue is the real thing. And the whole analogy is like a lot, and what will happen is they'll take one person out from the cave, open his eyes and expose him to things, and one of two things will happen. He'll deny it, or it'll take them a while to readjust. And once they readjust, the job is, do you just get out for yourself? Do you just make it out the cave and never expose the rest of the people that, yo, there's a whole like world of like actual things and light. And he wrote this, how many BCs ago, whatever. And it's like, yo, like you put so many people on and they're like, nah, I'm good in the hood, or I'm good this certain way, because they were conditioned to. They grew up their entire life thinking that this was okay, or thinking that, yo, my hood is everything. And it's like,
no, this is Stockholm syndrome.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so crazy to me when I read that in high school. I was just like, what? You know, and I think it still rings like really loud to this day. There's some people that will like be stuck. Like they won't accept change. And I feel like part of that though is the system that breeded that. It was really good. Like, you know, like even though I say your system is failing, it's not failing. It's doing what it was intended to do. You know, I say that because it's failing us, like, you know.
But it wasn't meant to appeal to us.
Right.
It wasn't meant to help us.
It was never like this. The system was built off of our like gripes, our blood, sweat, and tears. Like, it was never meant for us. It's running really well for the people that made it. It's just unfortunate that we have people like you spreading awareness, and some people still, because of that system, it's not that it falls on deaf ears. It's just hard to like make that transition.
See, but the thing is, bro, and I think it's a great analogy. I think it's a great point. I don't know anyone that was directly involved in slavery. We have problems that's present now that we can fix now.
Right.
That's our gripes right now. Like, so when we talk about fixing impoverished communities, fixing schools affected by property tax.
Right.
These are things that we can fix. These are problems that affect us directly.
Right.
Slavery doesn't necessarily affect us directly, as much as we act like it. I think again, I know that it's the reason.
Right.
But at some point in time, we got to say that, all right, eventually we got to all wake the fuck up and realize that it happened, and we got to move forward from this. There's people who blame, and you have that family member who it's the white man, it's the white man, it's the white man. Right. You're right. Now what?
It's okay. So I used to say it like that all the time for a very long time, maybe up until like maybe a few months ago. I had that same energy, and I feel you, right? And it's like, it's not that everything stems back to. What's good, Brody? Thank you for coming through.
Introduce yourself, bro.
Of course, Mark Anthony. Those who don't know me. You know what I'm saying? It's just good to be here.
Yeah.
Good to come support my boy.
This is my business partner right here, my brother.
Yeah.
You know, we got some magic on the way. You know,
magic
what I
on
mean?
the way.
We're gonna talk about it.
Yeah, definitely. But Rami, what were we talking about again? Sorry.
So I was basically saying that with slavery being it exists, it's really recent in human history. But in terms of our generation, we have problems that affect us right now that we can solve right now.
Right.
And by blaming history, we're the cave analogy.
Right.
We're keeping ourselves in the cave.
Right.
Where there's things that we can do right now that can be imperative to solving,
of course,
property tax influence on black communities, solving redlining, solving single parent homes.
Or even putting people onto what that is. A lot of people don't know. If you say redlining to a lot of people,
so for those of you that don't know redlining, there was a point in time where at the peak of immigration, when people were coming here and going into homes, banks were labeling people based on how lucrative communities were. And if a community was foreign or African American, this is bad for business.
Right. Don't set up anything in there.
Why this is putting us in shackles is because you can be a person that has a degree, you can have a great job, you could have no criminal record, but if your home is in a place that's redlined, it's harder if you get loans. The schools in your area, it's harder for them to pay teachers and pay for kids to go on trips and pay for textbooks.
Bad access to food.
And that's a problem because it's like, yo, you're telling me to get out the system. I'm doing what I can. I'm educating myself. I'm working. I got my degree. But I still live here. I'm trying to get out. But come on. We're just like, it was easier for people, and I'm not going to say white people who identified as white. And it's not their fault. A lot of people will come in here as like, yo, you have a choice. You can either be one of them or you could be this.
Right.
And it's like, this is easier. Join this.
Right. Because
remember, there was a point in time when Italian and Sicilian, that wasn't white.
Right. They were coming here
minority.
They were minority.
Right.
It's just like
Irish,
but they looked a certain way. And I think that's the biggest thing. This all stemmed from how we looked. That's that's the problem. And I think that's why even though you might not know any I don't really know like an actual slave or someone that was actually in slavery, but it's so sad that it's still affecting us. It's so sad that like something that happened not really so long ago, but it's like it's still causing us to feel a certain way when we see a certain set of people. The fact that we're still afraid, like a lot of black people still get anxiety. Let's not even say the word afraid. Get anxiety when they're around certain people because of our history. And I think talking about that and accepting, if like America needs to be very open about that, like before we move on to the next step. I feel like we keep coming up with solutions, but we're not talking about the problem.
But look what you look what you said. America has to be accepted. They don't have to do shit. We want none. That's what you understand. We want them to.
That would be great.
But it'd be nice.
It'd be nice to be accepted.
But it's just you gotta understand is that they're looking through a lens of perception. We're looking through a lens of reality. When I say that I have problems with authoritarianism and cops, I'm talking about real experiences.
Right.
We're stopping in Frisk. We're 12, 13 years old, coming from ball practice. Niggas coming down one-way streets with their guns out there, talking about what's in your bag.
Right.
I've experienced that.
Match the description.
I'm about to say, bro.
Right. You're black, so that must mean you're up to something.
So you must mean you're up to something. I'm talking about my reality. I'm not talking about something that's in a fucking movie.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying? So sometimes you talk to people, you gotta understand that. When you're talking to them, you're talking to them through the lens of an idea, from their lens, because it's not a product of their realism. They don't know what it's like. So when you hear certain people and they talk about like, damn man, I really wish we would have never stop and frisk, or they're coming from a place of just ignorance, and not ignorance in the sense of like, he's choosing not to know. He just doesn't know.
He didn't have that experience.
But it's also it's his prerogative. He doesn't want to know or not.
Right.
My thing is, in home, we can do something about it. There's enough money in every family to do something about it, especially if we mix our money together.
But that's the part that's true.
Yeah.
But the systems literally set us up to not be a community. And that's what I'm saying, like, that's the answer, but it's tough to do because there's still systems in place that's making that hard to do.
I agree.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, the mindset of a black man, the things that we're conditioned to do, whether you want to piggyback who started that, that's a whole nother conversation. But the fact is, we are conditioned a certain way. Like, we're conditioned a certain way. And those things, that was intentional. Like, it's in actual text. Like, they used to, like, separate slave families intentionally.
Oh, yeah.
Like, okay, let's just separate the dad, keep the mom, keep the son together so he never sees a hardworking person.
Oh, even deeper. They would have the mother breastfeed the white mother,
Right.
the white mother's babies,
like-
and it would, I'm neglecting
Right.
the son, have him out there. You just separate them completely.
And, okay, we talked about colorism earlier. Where did that come from? That came from slavery.
I get it.
So I'm saying, like, even though it's not like, like we're getting whipped, but the things that came out as a result of slavery are still big problems. And I feel like we're not talking about it. Like, we're not talking about that we're beating our kids because it came from slavery. We're not talking about that light skin, dark skin came from slavery. We're not talking about a lot of those things, like, as like that, and like what are the solutions to it instead of just trying to fix it.
But I get it, and I'm not saying you're wrong.
Right.
I agree with
No, we're on the same
everything.
page.
I'm
We're on
about
the
to
same
say
page.
I agree with everything you're saying, but I really feel like slavery is part of human history. It's not just here; it's
Of course
all
not.
over the world.
Of course.
You feel what I'm saying? And when we talk about these things, you got to understand that this is part of our history, right? And I don't want to say this because it's a cliche, but it's proof that we're built for this. We're built to leave the cave. All of us are built to leave the cave because we've done it, bro. Me and you just talking about our mothers. That's a form of abuse.
Right.
I love my mother. I
Right.
know you love Mama O.
Right.
That's a form of abuse, but you come out of that. You come out of that strong. You come out of that with solutions,
Right.
and you adapt it. My thing is, as a whole, as a community, as a black community, guys that look like you and me, women, men and women that look you. When are we gonna adapt and realize that tribalism is the way? Because then if we all built,
Right.
if we build together, right, and then we build this big beautiful black utopia empire,
Right.
whatever, then we by building in home, we can fix everything we need to fix. It's just the point of, all right, let's talk about slavery exists. Slavery is a part of our reality. Like, it still exists. All right, that's why I didn't say existed. It exists. But you have to be conscious and cognizant of the problems you have right now.
Right.
And I want to talk about the problems we can fix right now. I agree. Slavery is a big part of our, like, Dimitri had we came up with this analogy where it's just like, if you want to understand what it's like to be a black man in America, imagine everybody, like all the colors being in one race, right? And it's a chariot race. And I'm on the white man's chariot. I pull him over, bring him all the way around. Like, he laps twice, and I have to come back. I got to build my own.
Oh, build your own.
I have to go back, build my
Wow.
own. I build his.
Right.
I have to
And
go
I
back.
carried him.
Yeah, but I can't put my name on that one. I can't put. I carried him. I can't put my name on the. I carried around. I got to build for myself.
That's a deep analogy.
My thing is
Very
we're
deep, very ironic too. 'Cause earlier conversation I was having today with my uncle who's spending time in Africa right now. He's in Benin. We were just talking very similar about the same things. You know, it all comes down to. He was telling me how
come a little closer, Brody.
Oh, here we go. He was telling me how African Americans, black people, we started everything. We were natural born creators. Things such as like we can go to the internet. If you really dig down and deep, do your research, you'll find out that the derivative of code from the internet came from a black woman. Came from a black woman, black African woman at that. And it was found, adapted, used, and abused. And we have what we have today. Excuse me. We don't get any credit for it. Think about who's the first black inventor you learned about. George Washington Carver, I would say. Back in elementary school. Peanut butter. Oh, that was great. But no one really told us about the traffic light. No one ever really told us about his advances in actual electricity to actually find out that he is actually closer than Thomas Edison was to Nikola Tesla. Little things like that. They adulterate through our history so that we have the mindset now that we're a race only built to work and work for you. I firmly believe that through the education system that we received, especially our generation and the generations before, it was so filled and adulterated with altered history that nowadays, because we have the internet, you know, the truth is coming out. And like you said, you know, when are we going to start to, you know, wise and wake up? I think that's already starting. It's starting now. When we're going to start to build that tribal community between each other, I think that's already starting. Look at this year. I mean, it's sad to say such tragic events had to happen, but we started to come together as a community. You know, the Black Lives Matter movement, you know, there was pros, there were cons, there were, you know, a lot of agreeable and disagreeable things that took place during that time. But in the end, we still came together. And if we can all, as a community, adapt to that and start to realize, you know, if we combine our energy, our time into wanting to grow each other instead of trying to step over each other to get ahead, then that would be what utopia.
But see, when I hear utopia, right? Utopia means fantasy to me.
Right.
It means that I can't touch it. I think we can touch that. I just think that diatribe isn't the answer. I think us group arguing about slavery holding us back, and we know that.
Right.
We know that. I'm not here to tell you the shit never happened, bro.
Right.
It happened.
You're saying you want executable changes.
That's my thing.
Now,
I need
look
results.
At Jewish people. Look at Jewish people. They were one of the original slaves. They were one of the. Then look at them. They own everything.
They own everything.
They own everything.
Through tribalism.
But wait though. Some of this was given to them though.
It wasn't.
A
Not
lot
necessarily.
of it. A lot of
Not
land was given to Jewish people as reparations for something that didn't even happen in America. That's facts. A lot of communities that were given to Jewish people were given because America forbade what happened with which was terrible. Like don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying though, like that's a head start that what have we been given as Black people? So I hear what y'all are saying. Like I'm on that. That's why
I get it. I mean, I'm
do
still
these
waiting
things.
for my 40 acres and a mule too. So you know, however, I think what the difference between our community and the Jewish community is they weren't necessarily given that stuff. They fought for that. It wasn't like America said, "We feel bad for you. You know, we're gonna give you this land." No,
Okay.
they had lawyers, their own group, their
So you're
own
saying
people
they fought
representing them.
for it in a
They fought for it.
systematic
I
way.
mean, look at the Rothschild family. You have the Weinstein family. You know, they own every building in Manhattan. You got and this is Manhattan, the melting pot where everybody came into port, and they got smart. They started owning the cities, the towns. They started moving in right there on Ellis Island. When, you know, back in the 1940s, 1920s, when they started immigrating here, you know, my family's immigrants. My great-grandmother used to tell stories all the time about Ellis Island and how big and how disgusting but beautiful it was, you know. But they had people living right there, selling their goods, fixing shoes, right there, right when you get off the boat, so that the first thing you see is them.
Right.
And that evolved over the years into family revenue. Then, you know, that's where it comes to the point of they were, as you could say, given this land, but they had representation, and that's what we're lacking as a community. We're not, we don't have enough representation. We get a lot of red herrings, I would like to say, you know. Things like, not to knock the man, love Obama, but I think we were so distracted on the fact that we had a Black president for those 4 years. We didn't push hard enough to help him, you know. And then the years after, we didn't push hard enough to help anyone, you know. I personally feel like, you know, as a community, if we were to get the right people into legislation, a lot of the bills that he fought and his hair turned gray off would have been a little bit easier, you know. Things could have melded over a little bit smoother. And this just goes out through history in general. We get it's the distractions that we get on TV or the news, just the little things here and here to evade us from the real problem at hand is that we don't have representation, you know. I mean, yes, we have this big vote coming up, but like I have a good friend, he likes to say, you ever heard of the Electoral College? You know, yeah, we vote, but do we really get to vote? And do we have the representation we need in that college to vote for us? And I don't want to ramble too much, you know. I'm a little late.
No,
but
bro.
it just-
This is the platform
Yeah,
for it. You speak.
yeah.
You're not wrong about anything you're saying. And just to make this clear, because I didn't know that mentioning that Jewish people own the banks or they own the big mainstream businesses is anti-Semitic. He's saying this in terms of build, like it's a positive thing. Like you guys use tribalism to develop ownership
Right.
and understand representation and consumerism. And he's trying to say that we lack that.
Right.
Like they found the solution with what I'm trying to say was
Right.
with tribalism, bro.
Right.
Coming together and building. Because at the end of the day, it's fucked up to admit the one thing that separates us from everybody in America, right? We inherited trauma.
Yeah.
We literally inherited trauma. And you can talk about all your qualms with that and all the bad. It allowed us to adapt.
Okay.
We are the most adaptable of our species.
Yep.
Yes, that is
I
very
definitely agree with that.
true. That's true.
You feel what I'm saying? But I think the problem is we do it individually.
But do you think that's why we're so adaptive?
I think trauma can make anybody adaptive. You have to understand how to live with the causes that was dealt to you.
Okay.
You feel what I'm saying? And we was dealt some shitty cards.
Yeah, from
Cards
I mean, we got
came
dragged
with-
over here.
I'm about to say, we was
got
dealt some
dragged
really-
over
We got
here.
some really bad
So-
cards.
We got some really bad cards.
At the same time, though, like I feel for that. I do.
Mm-hmm.
However, kind of on the what you were saying, Rodney, is we got to do something about it. We've been crying enough, you know. We've whined enough. We've asked for enough. It's time to take it. It's time to do what we have to do to make it and get everything going. I like I said, these recent years. Well, this recent year specifically, I definitely see a boost in the community itself. It's just we need consistency and representation.
It's my fault, buddy.
Consistency and representation.
So
That-
can I
that's-
propose a question to y'all?
I'm listening.
So I've definitely had these conversations, right? Like you said, the conversations. We're talking about slavery. We're talking about we need to fix it, right? Like I said, the word fix. How do you fix a system that was never meant for us? And the reason why I say that is I'm saying is I agree with what you're saying that we should be community based, but should it be here? Should it be in America? And it's something I've thought about. Maybe we won't live to see that lifetime. Maybe this is a very far-fetched thought, but like I've thought about potential like solutions, and I'm thinking, imagine if like however amount 100 years down the line, there are no black people in America. Like our generations are in, I don't know where else it would be, but it's in a space where the system wasn't built to destroy us. Because when I think about, okay, we're gonna fix the system, what does that literally mean? Like I know they're like, okay, when I think of racism and I think of what's going on with us and what we need to get better, right? I think of it like it's a machine, right? So we might get jail reform. That's something we gotta fix, or we might fix education reform. But who's at the head? And it's like if you look at history, we fought and we've made systematic changes, but there's always someone or something that's like still making it harder for us because we don't know. Like, okay, not to like compare, but like when certain races of people had like their oppressors, they literally saw them like Jewish people knew what Hitler looked like. When we're thinking about this problem, like what is it that we're talking about?
That's the
It's a
and
system.
that is the problems that
and that's
there
what I'm
is
saying.
no
Like, do you
hope.
think we can really fix a system that we don't even know? Like, we could fix the arm, we could fix the leg, but like if we never make it to the neck, or do we just destroy the system and start over?
I don't think you can. I think my thing is one of the things we do. And it's gonna be weird for me to phrase this. We give trauma a face in the black community. We say it's the white man. It's the white man.
It's a
You
big
feel
thing.
what I'm saying? It's the white man is the reason why. You feel what I'm saying? And I think the biggest problem is trying to fix a system that you didn't have a hand in the first place. So, what we need to avoid, right, is talking about the past that doesn't involve us, that we can't touch, blaming faces that we don't see,
Right.
and then chasing for things that we can't accomplish. Like universal health care it sounds like a beautiful thing, but do you know how many private hospitals are in America?
Yeah,
It's
impossible.
it's not realistic. It's not
horrible.
realistic. My fault, guys. I got an alarm for my naps.
as we should, as we all
Just
should.
saying. But it's not realistic when you say free college. Where's this money coming from? When you say free education, what does that mean? Especially when we had that conversation where teachers are perpetuated as preppers. You're prepping for tests. That's
Right.
what you guys do.
Right, but
You
never
know what I'm-
prepping for life, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Is like you're not teaching kids about money. You're not teaching open group orientation. You're not teaching about stock. You're not like
Real estate.
Like I
But-
know the Pythagorean theorem, but I didn't know how to do taxes until like 2 years ago.
Yep.
you don't think that's something you should
That's
you should
terrible.
know as
That's
a
terrible.
young as a
I
5,
was-
6
course.
we were learning engineering basics and nothing about money
They taught you how to be a worker.
Yeah.
Literally.
and designed to
But do you
change the
think
mind.
that's intentional?
But listen, that's the problem right there. You have to start with the youth.
Okay.
If you just allow your youth to be put out as workers, who's going to be your representation? Who's going to be the voice? So what I'm saying is, it's the same thing where just like, yo, you homegrown. I don't even say you homegrown the weak. You homegrown the small that can't fend it for themselves, and you build with that. Your youth should be your 4, your 5, your 6-year-old. That's the next generation that's going to change everything.
Right.
But
right.
so you have to give them the tools to do that.
Right.
So the idea of open presentation, they should know how to do that by 6 years old. Understanding taxes.
Yeah.
Understanding money. Like, I don't know if you guys ever read the book or heard of it called Rich Dad Poor Dad. You heard it?
I've heard of it,
Just-
but I
was,
never watched.
Robert
I never read it.
Robert Kishiyama, idol of mine. Was just watching a couple of videos this morning. Actually sent a couple to my friends.
Everybody should read that book.
Yeah, everybody. I recommend it completely. Not only read the book. Watch the man.
Hear him speak about it.
Hear him speak. Because when you listen,
I'm not in tune. Y'all put me on.
When you listen to him, he one I can relate to him. He came out the military. He went to start work for Xerox, and then from Xerox he had an epiphany. Hey, I don't want to do this anymore. You know, and he teaches you how to start yourself as a creator. And there's one. Like I said earlier, that us being black people, we're natural born creators. And you were saying before about fixing a system. My whole thing is, why fix it? Why touch it? Why even bother with it?
Yeah.
Don't create our own. We have the land, we have the space. I don't know if you see, down south, they have their own black army. It's literally a bunch of dudes, a bunch of big, brolic, African-American males. They have their own weapons, their own code, their own bylaws. They run their town. They run their all by themselves. They have no bother in the world. I personally feel like we should not necessarily forget the system that we're being taught. Use it to get us to where we need in that system. And once we make enough revenue or get to a social status where we need to be, get out of there. My uncle, he moved to Africa. He went to the extreme, but we don't have to move to Africa. But find yourself, find your space, find your community that you can build. We were talking about teaching people about land. That's one key thing. This country runs off of land. At the end of the day, we go over to have war with places to take their land, to take their resources. Learning things about that, economics and money, not only here in America, but we need to understand these things in other countries. You need to know that the Japanese and the Chinese yen are higher than the American dollar. You need to know that the euro is higher than the American dollar. There's not a lot of people, you ask them about stuff like that, and they're just clueless. It's due to the ignorance of the education. But once again, like I said, we have to, as a community, cater to the young, teach them, hey, listen, this is what you need. They're going to teach you this in school, but I'm going to teach you this for life. As a parent, that's what our parents have to do.
Right.
As I feel like personally, as if you're a teacher and you're an African American teacher, try and sneak your lesson in. Try your best to, show these kids, listen, this is what I'm showing you, but this is what I'm giving you for life.
Right.
And let them know the difference. Because as they grow, I fortunately enough, when I was in the 3rd grade, I had Miss Josie Elwood, who kept it real, no matter what. And, there's mantras to this day in my head I hear, about, not letting the opposition get me down, just little keys here and there that keep me going and try to push us to things we want to create. And I mean, that's all I have to say.
No, I don't think I could have said it any better.
Right? No, yeah.
Honestly,
because the youth is very. We were talking about that earlier. Literally,
it's to me that's the solution. That's the solution. How you carve your youth, because they're your representation. They're the people that's going to understand the ins and outs and the values of ownership.
Right.
Because ownership is, to me, that's the biggest thing
Yes.
in
Gotta own
life.
something.
Whether it be land, whatever's the currency, whether it's land, whether it's pro-life, whether it's currency, whatever it is, they're going to be the generation that
Right.
understands it, and it picks what's going to be the currency for the next generation. So
No,
that's
for
where
real.
you start. Because they're going to school to be taught to be workers.
No, for real.
They're gonna
we were
gonna be
set up that way.
Yeah, bro.
And I think that was intentional. That was very intentional.
I think it still is.
Taught to go to school,
Mm-hmm.
to go to school for free, then to pay for school,
Right.
to work, to pay
No.
the school back. But by the time you pay the school back, you got to retire. They force you to retire.
That is the
It's a setup.
craziest shit.
That it's
telling you,
literally
it's
an
a
ant
scam,
farm.
bro.
It's
It's
an
a
ant farm. You know, we're the worker ants. We're born. You know, oh, this is how you lift rocks. We lift our rocks. We move our bugs. You know, do what we have to do. Populate the queen. Once we're done, in the graveyard.
No, but it's the truth, and not even to get off the point. I think what could be a big example of that, if I had to think about someone who's stuck in the hole and stuck in the past. When I look at the WNBA and I look at the NBA, I think the biggest problem is that systemically they're not building their own. They're building around what they see the NBA as, and it's two different entities all in itself. You can't operate like the NBA.
You can't.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
you don't have the
interesting. I'm
sponsorship.
not as in
either.
tune with the WNBA, but that's an interesting thought.
But I'm just saying in terms of the history, in terms of what they do for money, in terms of what they do for revenue, in terms of for ad revenue, in terms of the style of play, in terms of the rules, they're different. They should be different than men. It shouldn't be compared. They
Right.
shouldn't be worried about what the men are doing
Should have
systemically
their
to
own
the.
channel.
That's what I'm trying to say.
So
So
you're
with
saying
us,
that, like, I see what you're saying.
We need our
I see
own
the
spectrum.
analogy, Like
We need our
have
own
our own
wave.
system. But the only reason why I keep bringing this up is because if there's still someone manipulating the system, and we can build art. Like, for example, like, okay, one of the richest black communities in America is the community that my family lives in.
Yeah.
PG County in Maryland. Very, very good a lot of black ownership, right? But they're still subjugated to a lot of things that we're subjugated to in a bad system. It's that they might have they will have a better chance of raising kids that could come out and fix other systems. But at the end of the day, like, they're still under American, like, rules and regulations.
But that all goes back to the home. I mean, honestly, it's all about what they're teaching their kids in that home. Like we said, you got to carve the youth.
No, like, what I'm saying though is, like, all those things are still important, but if there's still someone out to hunt us, or there's still, and that's something that I feel like people don't think, like, I think there's still people that don't want us here legitimately.
Of course.
and that's
Of
your
course.
thing. Your thing is like, yo, what can we do to stop these people from
Because
doing that?
no matter how much we build this system, if it's still in America and those people are still there, they're still gonna try. So I'm not saying not to do what you're saying. I'm saying that I still think part of getting the system is at least figuring out, like, what are the things in place that are preventing us from not getting to where we are, and not just like, okay,
I think we know that as a community, though. I think we already know what is preventing us. It's more of we don't either want to face what it takes to complete it and do it, or that we're scared. You know, I firmly believe that everyone knows what they're supposed to do to get to that next level in life. Not even coming from a race point. So with that being said as a human being, you know, if it's all about, I learned this. It was you're either a doer or you don't do. You know, and that's what we need to fill the community of is people who do. Even it does not matter who's trying to get you down. I mean, lions have been hunted for hundreds of years. There's still lions on the earth. You know. You don't see them complaining. They found a way to survive and fight back.
I mean, there aren't systems really set up to, you know what I'm saying? Like, I hear what
I was
y'all
about
are
to say
saying.
because this system is definitely set up.
No, I
I
get what you're
Like,
saying. Like,
it's just
the
like-
system's set up to destroy us from jump. Like, you
Right.
come out the womb, you already got 2 strikes against you. I mean,
Right.
we all know that. My mother preached that from the day I was born. You know, you're a black man. You know, you're already born wrong. We need to take that aspect of, or we're being already born wrong, instead of we're already being born great, and they're trying to stop us. Don't think that they're trying to limit you because you're nothing. Think because they're trying to limit you because you're something.
Right.
And you just have to achieve that.
I think that's the emotional piece to it. Like, that's the mentality we should have, but the mentality is not going to change anything if we don't have a set of actual steps that are actually going to systematically change? Like, what are the steps?
Like,
what are the
Okay.
what are the steps that we need from, like, what's the agenda from this year to this year? We need this. Like, that's how we need to talk.
And that's
We're trying to-
tribalism. That's when we come
but that's
together
what I'm
as a
trying to say
community.
is tribalism is my solution for that.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, bro. Like one of my biggest things in the black community, my biggest beefs is when we marginalize ourselves. Like I remember there was one day, and I never forget this. We was in the YMCA, and the ref of the league, she brought in like this NCAA coach to come speak to us, and his whole thing was like, "Yo, do you know how many players, how many ball players actually make it to the NBA? 1%."
Right.
My thing is, they're always teaching us that to do this, like understand that the risk is so much, and it's supposed to scare you away from doing it. It scares you away from knowing what's on the other side.
Right.
I think what we do as black communities, we teach our sons and our daughters that they are the 1% in everything they do. You were born special, and you know you're special. That is why you're the 1%. You're not chasing the 1%. You are the 1%. That's it. That's like you're no one. You don't compare to anybody's systemic regime because you go on your own accord. And like the only thing I had wrong with what you said, bro, is I think there's people who generally don't know. I think there's people who generally look at having a nice house as a utopia.
Right.
Which is like, I don't know how to really get this. Like, I didn't realize it until like I got in a situation where my lady's pregnant. And then we started going, thank you, Brady. We started going house shopping. And I always had it in my head where it's like, I'm gonna go, I have to leave mom crib, apartment, and then eventually if I want to do a condo or something, I don't even know if I want a house. Like that's not even, but it was never realistic for me. I've never seen a working marriage. I've never seen two people in a happy marriage. I've never seen I've never seen that. I've only, my aunt who recently like passed away, she was the first one I've ever seen have her own house. And she was wealthy to me.
Right.
Knowing she had multiple bathrooms in the crib, bro, that shit was different to me. I've never seen no shit like that.
That felt like a goal.
I know
for
exactly that feeling.
You feel what I'm
Granny's house was always the little house because it was the biggest in the
Right.
family.
I've never seen nothing like that.
And you felt like that was a goal? Did you feel like that was a goal?
But what I'm saying is, once we went house shopping and we started running the numbers and we started talking about it, and it's like, oh, this is realistic. I could do this. I didn't know that. I did like, and that's what I'm trying to say is like, now that people don't know that there's a path.
Right, that you can take.
That you can take. Not everybody know that, and that's what I'm trying to say is molding your kids so they can have the information. I don't think our kids have the information. They're taught to be workers. They're taught to only know what's gonna promote labor.
I don't think our parents had a lot of the information.
That too. They were limited a lot.
That's a fact. That's why. But that's why I really don't want to have a beef with them.
Right.
Like, we blame our parents.
Right. They did the best that they could in the situation.
My mother honestly came to me one day and she said, you know, she named me my name because she wanted to be a doctor. When she realized I wasn't going to be a doctor, she was so upset. Then she started.
Parents' expectations.
She said, I gave you this name for a reason.
I don't know why. I feel like that's some gangster shit. I'm just
She said, I named you Mark Anthony because I didn't want to name you Marcus Antonius, which is the Roman and Greek emperor. You know, because it wouldn't sound phonetic for people to say if you know when you're a doctor.
Yeah.
Then she put, you know, my middle name and so on and so forth. She came to me and actually said, you know, hey, listen, I'm sorry that I couldn't teach you or tell you anything that is prevalent to help you with what you're doing in your life now. She said, all I know is that I'm supposed to listen to the police. I'm supposed to go to work, pay my bills, and come home. Make sure I have good credit. That's literally all she knows. And she didn't know anything about, you know, she bought the house she's in, she bought from our grandfather, you know. So she didn't know anything really about going out and investing. She didn't know about the stock market. The first thing she ever heard about the stock market was when I was in high school and I came home and we were talking about it. And she's like, what is this, you know? And that goes to say, like what you were saying, like our parents legit didn't know. And personally, it took me a while to realize, you know, I had to go and find out for myself. I didn't have, you know, the father figure necessarily or the person there to just sit there and, you know, say, hey, this is how the world's going to treat you. This is how you're going to have to get by. This is what you're going to need to do to, you know, save your money. You're gonna have to open a savings. I didn't know what a checking account was until I got my first job, and it was like, you need a checking account, you know. And that's pretty much like we hit the nail on the head of that. Like, our parents didn't know. I get what you're saying, where you're coming from. Like, the system is designed to go against us, but like I said, this past year, a lot of people are just starting to wake up. I don't know if it's just a thing of the universe, but the energy. But a lot of people are starting to realize, wait a minute, this shit is this isn't for me, you know. I've had a friend, you know, come to me, and he has done his fair share of unduly deeds, and comes to me and says, I woke up this morning, this isn't for me, you know. I'm not for that. Show me what you're doing. Let's try this your way. And we started working together, you know, and we doing our thing. I really firmly believe that if us as a people start to send a message, like you said, you know, set an awareness, you know, speak to the children, even every chance you get. If you see kids fighting on the street, stop them. You know, don't pull out your phone and record it. You know, it's little things like that.
I think that goes back to your original point of like the community aspect, where a lot of us now, it's like, that's not my kid. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I agree with you. Like, a lot of us, there aren't a lot of us that are gonna go out of our way to like, even though I'm not supposed to be responsible for these set of kids because I don't know them, but what can I do as a person to help the situation? And like I see what you're saying, that is a big deal. I think of like how like Asian communities, like I saw them in college, like their study groups, like things like that aren't like just socially like how things are ran in the Black community. It's, we do need to change some. We need to be more community based and more together than like you said, like it's a competition. And you know what I mean? Like I have to get out. I have to get out first. I gotta get the biggest
And
car.
they put
I
us
got
up
the biggest
against each
house.
other.
And I'm, damn, I wish we had more time.
Right.
Because we do have to wrap this up, guys.
Right.
But that, to me, that's the essence of what makes us us, and what's gonna make us, you know, the top hierarchy in terms of change in
Right.
human beings. You know what I mean? So with that being said, chase tribalism. You know, dictate what happens in the community. You know, polish your youth.
Right.
And that's how you'll find your representation. You know, damn, I wish we had more time. But
Nah,
guys,
yeah.
listen up. You know, this is God Strickland. Oh, I appreciate you, Mark. I appreciate you guys
Appreciate you. No
coming over here. It was a
problem,
great
man.
conversation. And, you
Beautiful
know,
podcast.
you.
you got
Thank you
going
for having
on,
me.
thank you
man.
guys. And we're going to wrap this up. This is the pot, the kettle, and the boy maroon. And we out. Love is love.
That was smooth.
Guys, if you liked the episode, please look down to your screen and hit like and subscribe. This is God Strickland, and you're watching the pot, the kettle, and the boy maroon.